Welcome to part 2 of our 5-part series, Earth, Fire, and Ice, as we go from Lima, Peru to Buenos Aires, Argentina. In part 2, we're going to visit Puerto Montt, Chile, as well as Puerto Chacabuco, Laguna San Rafael, and 2 days on the Chilean Fjords. Puerto Montt, located in southern Chile, at the head of the Reloncaví Bay, has a population of around 250,000. It was founded in 1853 during the German colonization of Chile. Puerto Montt is considered a gateway city to both the Chilean Lakes region and a gateway to Patagonia that lies just south of Puerto Montt. Our excursion for the day would take us to Petrui Falls, Volcano Orsono, and Puerto Veras on the shores of Yanquihue Lake. And after a brief stop at an observation point to look at Volcano Orsono, we made our way to Vicente Perez Rosales National Park. Because of the great natural beauty of this area, I'm going to try something just a little different. I'm going to be quiet and let you take a look at the natural beauty and wonder of this area. From the lower elevations of the national park, we then drove to the slopes of Volcano Orsono. Where our tour guide dropped us off, there was a small cafe, gift shop, and toilets that can be used for $1 American or a purchase at the cafe. There is a chairlift that can move you up the side of the mountain for $20 a head, but we tried out the old-fashioned way, in other words, hoofing it. There was another reason to walk the trail instead of taking the chairlift, as we were told that there would not be time for us to take the chairlift all the way to the top. Instead, we would have to only take it to the first chairlift station, get off, turn around, and come back down. But here's a sampling of the spectacular views that were afforded us as we took our little stroll up this admittedly fairly dangerous trail. Descending the same trail was much harder than ascending the trail, but eventually we safely made it down to the parking lot and staging area once more before we began our descent, via bus this time, back to the lower altitudes.
This is, well, we have...
And after all those switchbacks and hairpin turns, we arrived at our next destination, Puerto Varas, on Lake Yanquihue. Our first stop in Puerto Varas was the Hotel de los Volcanos. And this is a Radisson hotel and probably the largest hotel in a city full of smaller hotels, hostels, and guest houses. So after a nice lunch of sopapillas, poached salmon, and a crumble cake, it was time to go out and explore Port Varas. From almost anywhere in town, you get a beautiful view of Volcano Osorno and Volcano Chacabuco. Population of about 32,000, Puerto Varas was settled by German immigrants sometime around the government-sponsored German colonization in 1853. Today, you still see many examples of German-inspired wood frame houses and architecture. I'll leave you with one final shot of volcanoes Osorno and Chacabuco as we head back to the tender and back to the Regent 7 Seas Splendor. We were treated to a beautiful sail away that evening, featuring sweeping views of the bay, Volcano Chacabuco, and the surrounding mountains. And after watching that beautiful sail away, it was time to change for dinner in Sette Mare. And tonight, while the wife went to a beautiful Chapino, I went with an equally beautiful Ossobuco. As with the appetizers, desserts can be had at the small buffet stations. And after dinner, it was time for the show. The show tonight would be a cast production called Crossroads. Because Regent prohibits filming or recording of the show, I'll just tell you it was an interesting and enjoyable mishmash of rock versus country, and leave it at that. After the show, it was time for bed to get ready for our next port of call, Puerto Chacabuco. Puerto Chacabuco was our first real port stop in Patagonia. Located at the head of Chilean Fjord, the tiny town of only 1,000 is important to the local fishing industry for its processing plants and its proximity to natural attractions like Laguna San Rafael, Simpson Valley National Reserve. Because it is located at the head of a fjord, the sail into Puerto Chacabuco offered some wonderful vistas. We would not drop anchor in Puerto Chacabuco until somewhere around 10:30 in the morning. With that in mind, we caught a light breakfast in anticipation of our long afternoon excursion when we finally did arrive. Meanwhile, as we continued our sail into Puerto Chacabuco, we continued to marvel at the beauty of the Chilean Fjord. Finally, catching our first glimpse of tiny Puerto Chacabuco, we tendered in to find our excursion bus waiting. Our excursion today would take us to the Simpson Valley National Reserve and the city of Coyhaique. Our bus took us past bucolic fields and cascading waterfalls. We eventually arrived at one of our destinations, the Simpson River National Reserve. And while you can hike many miles into the reserve, we of course had to settle for the Cliff Notes version and stick to the well-marked trails and boardwalk that bordered the river. Back on the bus, and our next stop was Coyhaique. Coyhaique was founded in 1929, making it one of the youngest cities in Chile. Because of this late settlement and the fact that it is the largest city in the area, Coyhaique is the capital of Coyhaique Province and the Aysén region of Chile. Moving into Coyhaique itself, we found a bustling little community with an outside market set up in the city square. Now, if you're going to do any shopping here, just remember the rule of thumb, divide by 1,000. The exchange rate as we were there was holding fairly steady at 970 Chilean pesos to $1. If you peruse the internet and look up the 15 best things to do in Coyhaique, you're going to find that it is mostly an outdoor thing. Fly fishing, trout fishing, hiking, mountain climbing, and if you need to be outfitted, North Face and Patagonia are well represented in the main shopping area of the city. Or just shop for souvenirs, or enjoy the graffiti that festoons everything that's boarded up or unprotected. After an hour and a half or so in Coyhaique, it was time to go back into the Patagonian countryside. It was rather late in the afternoon, so interestingly, we didn't go back to the ship quite yet. Instead, we stopped at this restaurant in the middle of nowhere. Now, since it was rather late in the afternoon, we kind of agreed that we wouldn't eat that much. But what they served was interesting enough, along with the fruit juices, wine, beer, and Pisco sours, that of course I at least had to sample it. Of course, it was the backyard of the restaurant that interested me most. Take a look, and I think you'll see why. Soon enough, it was time to say goodbye to the restaurant and the goats and head back to the Regent 7 Seas Splendor. A short tender ride and we were back in our cabin, enjoying the local ambiance. We continued our journey out of the ice and fjord and onto our next port of call that was not really a port of call at all, but instead was the location of the Laguna San Rafael. We arrived the next morning in Laguna San Rafael to a stunning sunrise and vistas. And then early that morning, we hopped aboard a catamaran that docked with the ship while the Splendor was anchored in the fjord. The smaller catamaran had a passenger capacity of 129 and would take us in the northern Patagonian ice field to the San Rafael Glacier. Now the scenery and the play of light offered up some stunning vistas. So I'm just going to kind of keep quiet once more and let this play out. I hope you enjoy. Laguna San Rafael is contained within the national park of the same name. That park covers a whopping 1.74 million hectares. One of the more spectacular sights within the Laguna San Rafael National Park is the San Rafael Glacier. The glacier is 1.24 miles or 2 kilometers across the face and about 60 meters or 100 feet high. It is a tidewater glacier and covers about 294 square miles of land. However, it is currently receding because of global warming and climate change, and it is estimated that by 2030 it may completely disappear. After about a 40-minute visit to the glacier, we were on our way back to the Regent 7 Seas Splendor. Once back on board, it was time to kind of warm up, so we hit the coffee connection. The coffee connection is where you can either order up a cup from the barista or sort of roll your own at the 2 coffee machines at the opposite end. There's also plenty of pastries, snacks, and even sandwiches throughout part of the day. Now, staying with the glacial theme, I went with an iced Viennese coffee and set a goal to try more coffees from both sides of the menu. And after some well-deserved relaxing, We were working hard after all. It was time to change for dinner and head downstairs to, once more, the Compass Rose. And on the chef's menu tonight, even sashimi and nigiri for an appetizer that of course paired perfectly with my bolognese penne pasta and her salad. And then here I go again, pretending to be an onophile, simply by asking for a specific bottle of wine, in this case a Peter Lehmann Shiraz from Australia. Nothing fancy, but I do like the Peter Lehmann brand of Australian wines. So with a smile and a quick nod of my head, our wine steward poured for us and on we went. For dinner tonight, it was a lovely duck à l'orange for me and 2 servings of escargot for her. A little light dessert for both of us, and it was on our way to the next adventure, which just happened to be the ABBA party in the atrium. And after the ABBA party, it was time for DJ Drew. And after all that partying, it was time to hit the sack and get ready for the spectacular Chilean Fjords, Part 1. The 1,095 miles of navigable fjords and channels begins just below the Reloncavi Sound and continues all the way to Cape Horn at the southern tip of South America. It was here we left the much more open waters of the Sound and began our journey into the somewhat tighter confines of the fjords. We briefly left the confines of the fjords for more open waters, and then the next morning dove right back into the fjords. Now tonight we had arranged with the Compass Rose a special Asian dinner for ourselves and our new shipboard friends. And silly me, I just got down to eating while they were talking and totally forgot pictures and video. My bad. After a bit more messing about, it was time for bed, and the next day, a New Year's Eve party on the Chilean Fjords. We started the morning with a trip to the face of the Amalia Glacier. Located in Bernardo O'Higgins National Park, the Amalia Glacier is a tidewater glacier sitting on the edge of the Sarmiento Channel. It is part of the southern Patagonian ice field and is another of those retreating glaciers. It partially surrounds the Reckless volcano, eroding the northern flank of that volcano. The face of the glacier is about 2 miles across, or 3 kilometers. To give everyone a good view, our captain got as close as he could to the face of the glacier and then began to pirouette the ship 3 times slowly to give everyone plenty of face time with the Amalia Glacier. It wasn't long, and once more we were on our way, navigating the channels and fjords of Chile. In the Smith Channel, we found the wreck of the SS Santa Leonor. The ship ran aground on March 31st, 1968. The Santa Leonor started history as the USS Riverside, a Bayfield-class attack transport ship commissioned in 1944 and sold into commercial service in 1946, passing through 3 owners until she finally landed with the Grace Lines, seeing service as a cargo and passenger vessel until her 1968 demise. Well, that night was a combination of New Year's Eve and formal night. Tonight we would eat once more at Compass Rose, and we were greeted by these happy faces and offered a special New Year's Eve menu and the obligatory silly hats. And while her tiara looked pretty good on her, not so sure about my blinged out Quaker-like chapeau. But the meal, a mix from the always available menu and the special New Year's Eve menu, was quite good. So after pausing for one more photo op, we returned to our suite and stepped out to enjoy the fjords as they slipped by. After formulating our plan of attack on the evening's festivities, it was time to step out on the veranda once more to catch this perfect moment of sunshine, looking like rivers of gold flowing down the mountainside and into the fjords. And then it was time for the production show this evening, performed by the Splendor production cast in the Constellation Theater. It was kind of a musical spy kind of thing called Diamond Run, Danger Loves Company. It was a fun and entertaining show. Returning to our room, we took one more peek at the fjords sliding by as the sun was finally setting. Keep in mind, sundown was somewhere around 11:30 tonight. We once more descended the elevator to deck 4 to find the party in full swing. And then the final countdown.
15 seconds. I'm sure. No, it's with me now. 10, 9, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And 24.
that's it for part 2. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe and ring that notification bell if you are so inclined. And please stay tuned for part 3 of this series, where we make it to Cape Horn via the incredible Beagle channel. And after Cape Horn, it's on to Ushuaia, Argentina. And if you have the time and the inclination, please check out our growing selections of videos, and always safe and happy travels from T's Cruise and Travel Muse.